So in this lesson we're working on bar and line graphs, scatter plots, and linear regression. So we're given a situation. Researchers monitoring the number of wolves and rabbits in a wildlife reserve hypothesized the wolf population depends on the rabbit population since wolves prey on rabbits. Over the years, the researchers collected the data shown below. And we've got a table down here. We want to do a few things with this data in this table. We want to draw a bar graph of the rabbit and the wolf populations over the years, draw a line graph of the rabbit and wolf populations over the years, then draw a scatter plot of just the rabbit population versus the wolf population, and then add a line of best fit to the scatter plot. So let's start by getting our data into Excel by clicking and dragging to highlight it, Control C, and then coming over to our workbook here and just pasting it in there. And as usual, I'm just going to do match destination formatting. So we want a bar graph here of the rabbit and the wolf populations over the years. Let's start by just doing the rabbits over the years here. So I'm going to highlight those two columns, year and rabbits, and then I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to look for a chart, and they wanted me to do a bar chart, or as Excel calls it, a column chart. Now, if I click on a 2D column chart, that doesn't look like what I want. I want years across the bottom, and I want the rabbit population across the vertical axis. So let's click on more column charts here and see if it gives us something that looks like what we want. And that's what we want right there. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click OK. So there, we've got, now it's called it rabbits, so I want to change that title. So I'm just going to double click on that, and I'm going to change the title to Wildlife Reserve Population. And we want to add some axis labels. So if I go up here to Add Chart Element, I can add a horizontal, let's call this year. And then add a chart element, add axis titles, vertical, let's just say population. And there we go. Now let's try to get the wolf population to appear on there as well. So I'm going to, let's see, click on, I don't need this. How do I do this? I'm going to right click. So I click on one of these bars here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to change series chart type. I'm going to select data. Okay. So what it gives me is this little select data source box here. It gives us a chart data range. It tells us we've got rabbits, we've got years over here. I want to add another series here. So I'm going to, over here where it says legend entries or series, I'm going to add the series name. I'm going to say is just wolves. Let's capitalize this. And then to select the values, I'm going to click on this little thing that looks like a little chart here, and then I'm going to select the data right there, and then I'm going to hit enter. And you can see it's added that stuff to the chart there. So I'm just going to click OK. And I'm going to click OK. Now, we probably need something here so we can tell which one is the rabbits and which one is the wolves. That would be a legend. So I'm going to add chart element. I'm going to choose not data labels. I want legend. And I have options here about where I want to put it. I'm going to put it down at the bottom. No, I think I'm going to put it up at the top. There we go. So there's a nice little bar graph here. Now, this kind of data probably shouldn't be displayed using a bar graph. The bar graph here is useful to compare the populations in each year. We can see which one's higher and which one's lower. But if we're looking at trends over time, probably we want to use a line graph. So we'll look at a couple of ways of creating a line graph here. The first one is just right from the beginning. If I highlight all of this stuff here and I go up to Insert and to insert a chart, and I choose the line chart right here, it should give me some options for how this thing is going to look. And I got to go to more line charts, and there's one right there. So I could just click OK, and that's what I want my chart to look like. The other way of doing it is to just take this chart that I've got here. I'm going to do Control C, come down here, and then paste it, Control V, and I'm just going to change the chart type by clicking on it and then right-clicking, change chart type to line, and that's what I want. Okay. And that's already got my axes labeled and everything like that, rabbits and wolves. And if I wanted to maybe change what these lines look like, I could click on this, right-click, change series chart type. Nope, I don't want to do that. Cancel. I want to click on, let's see, let's just double click on this. Well, let's click off it, double click on it, and that brings up my format data series thing over here. So I could, let's see, if I wanted to add some markers, I could come over here to this little box here, click on marker, marker options. Currently it's set to none, but I could choose the little squares there and make them bigger if I wanted. You can see this squares for individual data points and things like that. So you could play with all those settings on there to get the graph to look like what you want. What did we want to do next? We wanted to, we've got our scatter plot. Oh, no, we've got our line graph. We want a scatter plot of rabbit population versus wolf population. And then we want to add a line of best fit to this. So if I want to do a scatter plot, I'm going to select the data that I want to do a scatter plot of, rabbits and wolves, and I am going to insert, and I'm going to choose a scatter plot, the one that looks like a little scatter plot there, and there we go. Now by default, the column that is on the left is going to be on your x-axis, and the column that's on the right is going to be on your y-axis. So if I click on that, it's giving me a title that I don't like there, but we can always change that. So I'm just going to drag this down here where we can work on it a little bit. So we've got our scatter plot. Let's add some axis titles here. Our horizontal one is going to be rabbit population. Our vertical is going to be wolf population. Our title is going to be wildlife reserve population, so we can just edit this. Okay, and there is our scatter plot. Now the final thing we wanted to do was we wanted to add a line of best fit. So Excel calls this a trend line. So if I click on my data and then I right click, I can click on add a trend line. And there, it puts a little trend line in there for me. Now we've got some options over here on the right hand side. We can choose an exponential fit, a linear fit, logarithmic, polynomial, and so on. Linear is what we want right now. But we might want to change a little bit about the way this thing looks. First thing, we probably want it to go beyond our data set here. So you can do that using these numbers here under forecast. If I want it to go forward, I'm going to change this number in here. So if I change it to 10 and then hit enter, you can see it extends that line a little bit beyond. And if I go to like 15, it extends it a little bit further again. If I want to go backwards, it's going to extend it back to smaller values of that rabbit population. So I might want to set that to say 20. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe even a little bit more, change that to 25. And what else can we do here? Display, if we want to do some calculations, we could have it display the equation on the chart, and I can move this equation to somewhere where it's not going to overlap my data. And what else can I do here? If I click on my trend line again, I might want to change this to a different kind of line here. So it's a solid line for sure. Let's set the color to be black, and I don't want it to be dashed. Let's make it solid. So if I choose dash type here, I can set that to be a solid line like that. Okay. And there we go, scatter plot with a line of best fit.